Hi, Mouse Planet. It's been a long time since I've said that with the gang I've got in the green room handy. Hang on, I'm getting messages here. Okay, let's see now. We are live and we are in various places around the world, if you can believe that. We're going to talk Disney World. We're going to talk Disneyland, the year in Disney, catching up. We're on Instagram for the first time. Hopefully, we're on Facebook and some of you can see us there. We also should be on X, and hopefully, some of you can see us there. Both of those are sort of new, Instagram and X. Before we were on Periscope way back when. Let's see how it goes. With that, let's bring on our West Coast editorial chiefs, guru, CEO, everything else. Let's see what happens when I push this button here. We were having some fun in the green room before, and she's got a green room. Adrienne Vincent-Phoenix.
I have a very green room now. Hey, Alan.
How are you, Adrienne? How are you?
It has been a year, so I am just glad to be on with everybody, and I'm so excited to, in the green room earlier, to be chatting with all of these people that I haven't seen in months and months and years in some cases.
And the funny thing is, with some of the people in the green room, I've last seen them in the parks, which was something that when we were doing our weekly live show wasn't a thing.
Right? I know. And that's what Todd was saying earlier, is that the music takes it back, because this was our pandemic, and it has been really weird for me this past year doing a bunch of media events, and normal media events, like normal, the whole hootenanny that Disney used to put on. And it's been weird. And I was talking with a group of people at one of the events, and I'm like, people, how did we do this? How did we get through this pandemic? How did we spend 14 months talking about theme parks that weren't open? And
writing weekly updates.
Writing weekly updates. And we kind of went down memory lane, and we were all kind of joking about the things that we had done to get through that time. And I kind of actually want to bring everybody in to sort of chat about that, if we've got that
well,
chance.
Let's start with our furthest away participant, because we could end up losing him first to the time difference. Let's bring on from Prague, Czech Republic, Gregg Jacobs. Welcome, Gregg.
Hello. How are you? I stayed awake this long. I can hang on for an hour.
Tell folks around the Facebook and Instagram and X world what time it is now in Prague.
It is 2:33 a.m.
So, how about that?
Yeah, I think I figured. You said it was an international broadcast. I think I'm on 9 time zones ahead of Todd Pickering.
I sort of feel like I should have gotten on a plane and gone to Alani so that we could really, really stretch the glory. But, I got the Alani kind of shirt on, right?
Yeah.
It's close enough.
So, Gregg, I know you've been stateside, because I've seen you in the parks in the last year, although I think the last time you were in town, funny enough, with the pandemic, I had COVID the last time you were in town, and so I didn't get to see you in the parks.
No, we had plans, but unfortunately, COVID had other plans, like it has a lot in the last few years. But I see you in June.
So as a Floridian/foreigner, what's your take on visiting Disney parks in 2023?
Well, I told you I made it to Disneyland Paris once since I've been here, and going back to Orlando was like going home again. It was nice. It was good, probably more crowded than I expected. But luckily, from when I was there my few months last year, I had my park reservations and virtual queues and everything lined up, so I knew what I had to do. And while I was there, got to ride Tron for the first time. Got to see Fantasmic for the first time in years, my favorite show, so that was great. Got to try out a few of the restaurants and got in some family time. So I had a good time there when I was there a few months ago.
All right. Well, since you mentioned Todd Pickering, and since we haven't had him on live in a while, and of course, I can always press the buttons that were here from the pandemic, like this one, before I bring him on.
No. Hey!
Yeah. How are you doing, Mr. Pickering?
Youth, that makes me feel old. I'm doing fantastic. Rainy day in California, San Francisco, and coming to you live from my flat with my Disney ears.
And now that you've moved up to the Bay Area, as the Californians call it, How often have you been down to Disneyland?
I made it a pretty good amount this year. Adrienne and I did the opening of Tiana's Palace, which was fantastic. Thank you for that. And the food was fantastic. Did Oogie Boogie Bash this year. Lots of great new characters, and made it for a quick trip at Christmas. I think I did one more. So those events are pretty big, though. So those were the three I remember the most. It was great being there for the holidays.
Yeah.
Got to catch Mostly Kosher, which is my favorite music group.
I think you were with me for part of the Disney 100 kickoff.
Yeah, well, wait, was Rogers this year?
Yes.
Rogers was this year.
What feels like last year. So yes, I was there for Rogers the musical.
Runaway Railway was this year. Rogers was this year. We've had, fewer festivals than Epcot, but not by many.
Let's see. Because you guys went to Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, I was not expecting audio. How come I'm getting audio? There we
That
go.
was one of my favorite.
I went to Florida's Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway the day you guys were doing the opening out in California, because as we all know by now, those who follow Disney Parks news, California's got the better queue. What do you guys think of that queue? Yeah.
By far.
Oh, the queue's
Talk about it for
amazing.
people who haven't seen it. Yeah.
Well, the California queue is it's an attraction unto itself. I mean, I feel badly for people that say that, oh, we bought Genie Plus and we paid for Lightning Lane on that, because you miss, I think, honestly, the best part of the queue, which is the retro rooms where you've got the disco Mickey, and you've got that whole area, and then you go through the concession stand. And if you do the Fast Lightning Lane, you miss the concession stand entirely, and that is full of so many in-jokes that you really can spend an hour in there. And I've seen people do it, taking pictures of every little tiny thing that's in there, because it's hysterical. So I feel badly for Floridians who are going to miss that. But it is interesting to note the first time that I went on Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway was in Walt Disney World, where the pre-show wasn't working. And so I was with Alan. And so
Yes.
we walked into that room, and then something went terribly wrong, and we walked through the screen. But I had no idea what anything was going on, because we didn't have the video or audio that's supposed to be there. So it wasn't until I went on the ride for the first time having no idea what the story was meant to be. I tried to go, without spoilers. And so it wasn't until the ride actually opened in California and I actually saw the pre-show video. I'm like, oh, hey, that's the setup. Now I know.
Well, in fact, I think when you and I went, I think that was one of the times we went, because the ride had been down entirely for a while.
Yeah.
And we saw they had opened the doors, so there was no queue, and we sort of headed straight for the door.
Yeah, but they opened it up and it wasn't show ready yet. They hadn't gotten the pre-show working yet.
And that was, unfortunately, that was the B mode during the part of the pandemic when the ride reopened. You just walked right through that pre-show, right into the show.
Got it.
First time I wrote it, same thing. It was kind of the tail end of the COVID period. So same thing as you. I had no idea what it was. I just kind of had you walk through the theater.
Interesting.
But it did an amazing effect.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's bring on some more folks here, because we got a green room full of them. Let's go to the middle of the country here with Todd King. Welcome, Todd. Our Star Wars correspondent. He's actually wearing Mickey ears and but he's got Star Wars paraphernalia on. Okay.
This is the shirt Greg got me for Christmas.
That's right.
I wore it in Galaxy's Edge when I visited, and I happened to have it on today.
And because Todd was actually here in Florida and got to go to Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, I can no longer tease him that he's never been.
That's right. No more of that. Yeah, I got to go in October 2021, and it was pretty cool. It was pretty awesome.
But you missed out on the Star Cruiser. I think that one's already gone.
It's already taken flight.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. We've also got in the green room our chief operating officer, who only occasionally joined us during the pandemic, but he's here now.
Hey,
Mark
Mark.
Goldhaber.
Hey,
Mark.
How's it going, everybody?
Hey.
Howdy.
Yeah, I'm in Philadelphia right now. I just arrived maybe 2.5 hours ago, so I'm as coherent as I can possibly be. But if I lose it, forgive me.
And the last place I saw Mark in person was also Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway,
This is
just
true.
days before something stopped us now.
Yeah, that was the last time I was in the parks, right before the pandemic. We got back to New York from the trip, and I think it was about a week and a half after that we sent everybody home, and my team had to make sure that everybody in working for New York State could work remotely and securely. So that was a load of fun.
Let me also bring on from New York, Chris Berry. Hey, Chris.
Hey.
And-
Hi, everyone. How are you all
Chris,
doing?
Chris is the rare one who's been here that I haven't been to Hollywood Studios with.
We didn't. I was with a wonderful dinner at Ale and Compass at the Yacht Club. Hung out in the boardwalk for a little bit, and I was alone on that trip for a few days. So I have been at Disney World from August 2022 until now 9 times, because we have cast members there now. So we're taking full advantage of that lovely cast member discount that the boys, my sons, are giving us. So unapologetically.
I would 100% take care of that myself. I cannot wait to make this enough for discounts.
Yeah, I have stayed in rooms that I would never have thought I would stay in before. We've had Magic Kingdom views at the Grand Floridian, the Polynesian, and the Contemporary. So I've watched the fireworks from each balcony. It's been great. I can't knock getting 65% off rooms, So it's been pretty cool. I got to say, I'm going back next week. So
nice.
And because I've been using StreamYard so much, I'm now hidden behind the logo, and I forgot that this was a possibility. See?
Yeah, that's right.
You got Mike Wazowski it yourself?
I did.
You totally did.
I mean, I still have that button that we used to use that covers up the people in the middle.
No, I'm over. I'm good. So,
well, let's talk about the year that was for Disney parks. I mean, here in Florida, there's a couple of local issues that are on the radar, but I think the bigger ones that are affecting both coasts to some degree were Bob Iger's announcement earlier in the year that he was cutting $5.5 billion in spending and laying off 7,000 at the corporate level. And in that same mix was the actor strike and the writer's strike, which affected development of new material for the streaming services and the TV networks and the movie theaters and the Pixars and the Marvel and Star Wars and everything else. What do we think in terms of 2024? How much healing is the company going to do and start making plans that we hear about on the coasts? Let's start with Adrienne, since Adrienne's the closest to corporate and she's lighting up her eyes big because I said, let's start with Adrienne's thoughts on the subject.
No, because just as soon as you said that, my desk fan decided to go into like some manic overdrive thing. Oh, this is hysterical. Hush,
technology.
I'm almost sorry I didn't hit the local recordings button so we could just have Adrienne isolated for the whole show for all the different technical issues that are coming up in her studio.
Yeah, and I'm really thoroughly enjoying the glaring light of doom here. It's super fun. Honestly, Alan, you wanted to throw it to me, but the reality to me is that I think that a much more interesting thing is what's going on in Florida. Is what's going on with Disney in Florida and the whole, are we moving? Are we not moving? Did we just ask a whole bunch of Imagineers to completely upend their lives and relocate to Walt Disney World? And now maybe we're not doing that. So
well, they definitely canceled it. I mean, there was an official announcement to that end earlier this year.
Sure. But what does that do for the cast, what does that do for the Imagineers who already made that move? And for the ones who are in the process of making that move, and for the ones who left the company because they didn't want to make that move. I just feel like a lot of, yes, Bob Iger cutting lots and lots of money is a very bad thing, and nobody will ever get me to quote otherwise. But I feel like that whole Michigan with Florida and just not knowing what they're doing and what is on or off, that to me feels like that is hampered more in long-term development because the company's not settled.
And how about the intermix with the board proxy fight that's somewhere in the distance, where they're trying to get Peltz and is it Rizzullo appointed to the board, which was a name out of Disney's past.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I never had any dealings with him, but you must have crossed paths with Jay back in the day.
I did, but not very frequently. So when the name came back up again, it was like, okay, let's go think about this for a little bit. And I'm like, why is he on that side of the conflict? So it's been, I don't know. I don't know how that's all going to play out. You know, the corporate stuff is more your world. And so you're usually the one I turn to on that type of stuff. I don't know how this is all going to play out. And I'm hoping it plays out in a way that gosh, can I say this? I'm really hoping this plays out in a way that Uncle Bob finds a way to spend more time with his family. Because I really think we do need that change at the top. And I was not a Chapek fan. I am not going to, die on that hill. I don't know that Bob Iger coming back for 3 months, 6 months, whatever, to kind of, get around that iceberg was a bad thing. But the company has to move on. It has to be handed down. And I feel like we don't have any idea as consumers, as people who watch this industry. I don't think we have any real idea of where the company's headed. And I don't think the company knows where it's headed. And I think that's frightening. I see amazing stuff happening in Shanghai. I see amazing stuff happening in the international space. I see amazing stuff happening with Cruise Line. I mean, heck, however it is that they managed to get their hands on a half-built ship at
the upcoming Disney adventure for the Asian market.
And, somebody was right on the ball to be able to snap that ship up. But, I see those great things happening, but Disneyland, I'm not so excited. Walt Disney World, not so excited.
Yeah, the situation here in Florida, of course, is hampered by what I'm starting to sort of frame for myself as the battle for Reedy Creek. Give it a good sort of war-sounding name. And it's going to be a while before that shakes out. The governor tends to play it down in press conferences these days. He says he's over it. But the litigation's at full bore. There was a new lawsuit filed just yesterday, which I haven't dug through yet. But Disney sued the Reedy Creek Board, which is now called the Central Florida Tourism Authority Board. They sued the board for failure to disclose certain documents. They allege that the head of the board is keeping some documents on a private email server, on private devices, and so that they can't get access to things that open meetings laws require and so forth. It's going to be a while before all that works out. And of course, the other thing that happened here in Florida in the last year was Disney reached a major agreement with some of its trade unions. The actors' strike and the writers' strike were settled on the corporate level. Locally, Disney had ongoing disputes with the frontline cast member unions. They all got pay raises as a result of that, the hourly cast members, that is, and got that settled. But of course, that translates to higher prices for everyone, and the circle continues. Anyone else have a thought on the subject here, how it's affected them as a Disney consumer?
Don't you think the governor's playing it down because he's kind of losing? He picked a fight with somebody that he shouldn't have picked a fight with. He picked a beloved company and the biggest employer in the state to pick a fight with. And I think he kind of took a loss on that one. I even think it may have hurt him in his run for the office, because people
maybe nationally, but unfortunately not locally.
No, I don't know how popular he is in Florida. I visit a lot.
Well, he got reelected in the midst of it. So,
all right, yeah, that's true. I wonder if he bit off more than he can chew with this one.
No, and the interesting thing, as I've said to several of the Disney folks that I know, is what we're dealing with is, as a consumer and as a Floridian, I get hit no matter who wins this battle. I mean, I think Disney's maneuvers over the past couple of years haven't been perfect. I don't agree with Florida's maneuvers regarding Disney in the last year or two, because in the end, as a Florida taxpayer, I'm going to foot this bill. As a Disney consumer, I'm going to foot this bill. As a Disney Vacation Club owner, I'm going to foot this bill. And anywhere Disney's spending money that's not improving the quality of the parks, I'm footing the bill in terms of being a consumer, and the most magical place on earth becomes that much less magical. So those are my thoughts on that subject. I've talked about writing an article on the thing, but the litigation itself keeps morphing. Disney has dropped some counts, brought new litigation. There have been no definitive rulings by the courts. And, as a former litigator myself, and by the way, I've put my license on inactive status for 2024. I'm hanging up that hat. When it comes to what's going to happen next, it's in the hands of lots and lots of judges. And we're about to hit an election cycle that could change the federal bench before appeals and whatnot are all decided. Hopefully, the folks will come to a settlement, because, most litigation settles. But, I'm sure the governor sees no reason to settle. And any terms that he would offer at present to Disney, I'm sure would not be acceptable to Disney. So we're just sort of stuck in the current status quo there.
Yeah. Going back to Jay, I believe that Jay Rasulo was the first Disney corporate person to pose for photos with the web-based Disney media at the first press event that they allowed us to attend, which was 100 Years of Magic kickoff. Deb Wills, John Yaglenski, and I were 3 of the, I think, 5 people who got the top level credentials. And Jay posed with us after a presentation. And I remember that we, the 3 of us, were looking at each other and going, "Holy crap, we're actually here. We made it." Mm-hmm. But from when I was doing the corporates, covering the corporate stuff, Jay was really the financial focused guy. I think he was, best at looking at bottom lines and stuff like that. But when he was running parks, that really didn't benefit the guest experience. He was really just looking at the money aspect of things. We used to joke that the reason why Pleasure Island disappeared was that Jay wanted an express lane between the shopping districts on the west side and the marketplace. So, while Jay might do well for enhancing shareholder value, in terms of the parks and guest experience, I would say that bringing Jay back would not be beneficial.
Interesting. And it's interesting what you say about Disney Springs, because obviously it took 8 years to go from the closing of Pleasure Island. Was it Disney's Hyperion Wharf was one of the interim proposals before we eventually got what we have now, Disney Springs, which is basically a mall for the 21st century.
Yep. And then in terms of Iger, I remember when he first started as CEO. And I think I may have been one of the first people on the internet side to say, I think that this is going to be okay. Bob's taking a different approach. He's not trying to be Walt. He's trying to have all of the disparate businesses have their own kind of mini Walt running that business. And he just, coordinated between them. And I think that was successful for a while, with some exceptions who did get moved to the curb.
Thank you.
But I think at this point, I don't know if he doesn't have the right person up front on the park side, or if there's something else going on. But maybe it's just time to have somebody else coordinating the show.
Well, the interesting thing about the person running parks, Josh DeMauro, has made himself available to those of us, reporting like I do, like you used to do, very regularly. I mean, I got a small group sit down with him early this year. I've chatted with him on any number of occasions over the past several years since he's been in the chairman of parks roles. And the fascinating thing to me is every time he's at one of these official things, he doesn't get to say anything officially, right? He has said, this is what we're thinking. This is what we're thinking. And when you talk to him in a small group, he says, we've got big plans, but we're not ready to talk about them. And maybe that all comes down to the big battle of Reedy Creek that I've talked about, but we'll see. Let's go back to Adrienne, because I know Adrienne's time is the most short. Let's talk about something cheerier. What is new at Disneyland this year, right? We talked about Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. Rogers the Musical came and went. What else?
Todd, Rogers, Todd.
Is she mourning?
I am in mourning. I really am.
Todd Pickering, you're muted.
Todd and I had a different opinion on Rogers the Musical. We both liked the show. You're not going to put us together? We don't get to talk together?
Well, you can talk together, but either it's all of us or none of us, right?
Really? Is that how that works?
I can hear you, Adrienne.
I can do this. Ready? And let's see. I'll keep myself in here for the moment. No, I'll take myself out. Goodbye.
Okay, that's funny. Hi, Todd.
Hi. No, Rogers the Musical, I think we did both like it. It was a 30-minute piece. It was a placeholder. I thought it was a little baffling to put a 30-minute piece. The performers were great. I think there should always be live music. It just at 30 minutes, it was very confusing. The only thing I said negatively was that if you were not a Marvel fan, which a lot of my Disney friends are not,
right?
They go to Disneyland and Avengers Campus means nothing to them. There's especially a lot of my female older friends, it's just not their cup of tea. And there is rumor that there's going to be a longer version going in there, and I think that would help the show a lot. What have you heard about that?
I have heard nothing that I can talk about, but what's interesting to me, I mean, you're right about that, because Nick Fury's Patter song, that needed to be handed out to people as they walk. If you don't know anything about Marvels, please read this while you're standing on queue, because that, for people who didn't know anything about Marvel, they really did need that Patter song to kind of fill them in as to who all of these people were. And I even had to go back and watch my video of it.
I saw all the movies and I could barely follow it. That's how fast it was. Great fun.
Yes.
But that was my only negative critique about it. The two lead singers were just absolutely amazing, and that's what we go for. There needs to be something in that venue.
That was what you and I both went on about was how good they were. And there needs to be something in that venue, and there needs to be something over in the Fantasyland Theater, and there needs to be more parades, and there needs to be more entertainment, and there needs to be more live everything. And that's just,
that just goes back to what we were talking about. The question is, I mean, the Bootstrappers are one of my favorite groups. They came on for the Pirates of the Caribbean music. They're fantastic. I wish they never go away. Right. But I'm like, when is there going to be something newer? And The Lion King was a redux in the Fantasyland Theater. But, it's time for that entertainment to be there. And I also question, again, you guys know more about the cruise ships. With all the shows rotating out, how hard would it be to get a show in the Hyperion Theater?
That's something I've never understood. And if you go back to the opening of DCA, I remember them talking up this theater, the Hyperion Theater, about how it was going to have so much fly space that they could stage 2 Broadway style shows in there. I remember that there being their big pitch on that was how much fly space it was going to have, and that we remember them. I remember sitting after one of the press events and thinking, okay, so let's see, we could do whatever the cheese show is during the daytime, and at light you come in for The Lion King, like the actual Broadway sit down of The Lion King, that they could stage something during the daytime and something Broadway at night. And of course that never happened. There's so much potential, but you saw that we're getting a new parade.
Correct. The Pixar parade. Very exciting.
And that is going to feature. Oh, there you go.
Of course, we've got a hat change.
All right.
Well, gotta always have a costume change.
Sorry, I
we're
should
talking about
totally warned
musicals.
you about
But
that.
before you go on, did your various citizens come back? Like the citizens of Buena Vista
Yes,
Street,
we
are
got
they
our
back?
citizens back.
Because our citizens never came back.
And I've had some lovely chats with Officer Blue lately.
All the entertainment came back except for the Hyperion, except for the summer extravaganza. And, the Lion King was at the Fantasyland stage, but that show is closed now?
That show's closing, and we don't have, as far as I know, we don't have a firm announcement on what's replacing that, unless I missed something in the last 2 weeks. That would be awkward. But I am looking forward. Okay, yay, Pixar again. And of course we have to do Pixar again because, the entire hotel got turned into a painting over there. So that, I'm looking forward to that. And Pixar with the new parade, the addition of Turning Red into the float. I'm actually really curious to see what that looks like. Because that'll be the first, I think that's going to be the first in-park entertainment based on that franchise. And I'm very excited about it.
And you mentioned the Pixar Hotel. What about the Disneyland Hotel DVC edition? What do you think of that? Have you gotten over there much? I know you were there for its opening.
I was there for its opening, and to be 100% honest, because I try to do that, I think that the way that they had to set it up with the dues and the taxes is horrible. I am a DVC owner. I have points that we were actually really looking forward to being able to use to spend the night at the hotel there. My kids love that hotel. They love that water slide. And so being able to go in and use points to take a staycation weekend, and the points, the amount of money that we have to pay in taxes just to use our points at that hotel makes it ridiculous. We could stay at the Howard Johnson's across the street for about what we would have to pay just in taxes, in occupancy taxes, to stay.
I pulled up the chart last week myself thinking, gee, it'd be nice to use my points out in California because I haven't been in a while. And yeah, those taxes are sky high compared to Hawaii, which is the only other one that charges the transient tax, right? Because that's what they call this, the transient tax.
Yeah. And it was a completely different deal when they built Grand Californian. And so we don't have that deal.
And to compound injury for those of us from out of town who want to come in the past, we could use our points at the Disneyland Hotel or the Grand Californian or whatever we're calling Pixar Pier in the past. And the problem now is not only did the points always escalate to the point where you weren't getting the greatest dollar per point deal, but now they no longer waive that $95 fee. So if you make a reservation, you're also going to pay $95 for the privilege of using your points in the hotel instead of the timeshare.
Yeah, I'm really disappointed. So, and the rooms are weird and they're small. I like the rooms. I mean, don't get me wrong. I like the rooms, and I got to stay in one of the wheelchair accessible rooms, which our family needs. And I was impressed with the way that the wheelchair accessible room was laid out. There are some weird little things that you don't think about in designing a hotel room unless you're the one sitting in the chair. And they got that part. And I was really, really impressed with that. But the duo rooms that literally don't have a bed until you're sleeping, and the rest of the time it folds, the Murphy bed thing, I don't get that. This is not France.
That was my reaction when they built Riviera, but those have been super popular from what I understand. And there's not that many of them at Riviera. I don't know what they're like out in California. Todd, have you had a chance to walk the property?
No.
Oh, you got to come walk with me. It's crazy.
Okay.
Anything else new at Disneyland before you have to run, Adrienne?
You know what? There's so much. We're going into festival season for Disneyland. We're just leaving Festival of Holidays. We've got another week on that. And then we're going to go into Lunar New Year. And then we're going to go into
up here in the Bay Area. What is that? Lunar New Year is January 23rd through February 18th.
And we've got, the Food and Wine Festival coming after that. And then we've got Pixar Fest. I mean, I love what Disney did this year, where they released the entire festival calendar at once. This whole drips and drabs things that they've done before, I think it's really easy to get kind of lost in all of the festivals. Like, you don't have a sense of the rhythm of it. And because it's like, we're halfway to Halloween, and we are also talking about this Halloween thing that's happening at Christmas during Lunar New Year on top of Festival of the Arts. I mean, they can't get their marketing straight because they're constantly talking about festivals that are either happening tomorrow or 6 months from now. So I love that they put the entire calendar out at once. They're not having to make those big things. And that way, when people are planning their vacations, we can look at a calendar now. How many times have we joked that people at Disney don't own a calendar? I love that there's now a calendar, and we can look at the calendar and we can say, hey, this is the festival. I'm going to do this and this, and I can plan my 2 vacations, my 3 vacations, whatever it is, if I'm a local. And I'm excited about that. So I think they did something really fantastic, and I hope they do that every year.
Todd, any other thoughts about Disneyland before Adrienne has to run?
No, I just that the Lunar New Year up here in San Francisco is such a big deal. It's all over the city. So with the Asian population, and it's the Year of the Dragon. So I highly recommend that for anyone that's interested in it. And and the Haunted Mansion redo is the big deal this year.
Yeah,
it looks like it's going to be closed. They're going to have a new queue. Back to what Adrienne was saying about the hotel rooms. Finally, a nice elevator for the wheelchair accessibilities.
I'm very excited about that.
And a gift shop. It's going to be great for everyone. And the redo of the queue is going to be needed. It looks like it's not going to open up at all and just stay because it's going to take the whole season for reconstruction, and it'll go right back into the Nightmare Before Christmas, right?
And then in my last 10 seconds, Tiana's
Yes.
Splash Mountain redo.
But no slated date, but it does say late 2024,
It'll be
correct?
2024, that's all we know.
Yeah, and here in Florida, when they said the Hatbox Ghost would appear at Magic Kingdom late in November, it turned out to be the very last day. So hopefully late 2024 doesn't mean December 31st, 2024. As I'll be blocked that day on our pass, and I'm sure lots of Disneylander annual pass holders will be blocked.
A friend of mine that worked for the company used to say that if Disney told you that something was going to open summer of 2018, figure out what the last legal day of summer is, and that will be the day it opens.
Well, we've gone in the other direction here for the most part recently, where Guardians was going to open summer of last year. It opened long before summer. Technically, it opened in early May. The Moana was going to open late. The Journey of Water was going to open late. It opened October and had a soft opening that went on forever.
Yeah, that was the longest soft opening.
Tron was long delayed, but even its opening went through a really long soft opening period. I mean, I went to the media event for Tron, 3-4 weeks before it actually officially opened. And it had cast previews a month or 2 before that. And it had cast AP and DVC member previews for almost a whole month after the media event. It seemed like a month anyway. Maybe it was only 2-3 weeks.
Yeah.
All right, Adrienne, thanks for joining us. I'll bring everybody back in. They can all say goodbye. Let's bring everybody in. Let's see. We got
Todd and Mark and Chris and Greg.
Nice.
Happy New Year to you guys. I miss all of you, and
yes, definitely.
am so excited, and I really hope that at some point we can get the gang together in person. It'll have
physically
to be in Florida, and Greg, that's going to be contingent upon you.
Yeah, it can be baited into coming to Florida pretty easily.
Yeah.
I'm just glad for 2023 being over.
Yes.
All right.
Bye,
Thanks, Adrienne.
Thank
Bye,
you.
y'all.
All right.
Bye.
All right. So let's talk about Adrienne now that she's gone. No.
Yes. Oh my God. He's gone.
Because now it's just us 6 guys talking Disney.
Oh, yeah.
And
That's
I found it interesting myself going through the whole year's worth of Walt Disney World updates today, because we haven't decided what we're doing for year end, if we're going to have one more update before year end, or if I'm going to write something about the year next week. And I went through all the updates this week, today, and it was interesting how many things I'd found from my last updates at the end of 2022 actually finally happened at some point in 2023. For example, the return of parking lot trams, those at Epcot and Hollywood Studios. those were due in 2022. We finally got them in the fall of 2023. The return of the Walt Disney World Railroad, that happened while I was blocked in this time of year last year. My first ride on Walt Disney World Railroad was January 2nd, and I made my last ride before I left Magic Kingdom the other day, before my blocks went in, another ride on the railroad. Let's see, Splash Mountain was due to close at the beginning for us, and I think it closed later out of California. It closed January 22nd here in Florida. It's not due to reopen, as we were just saying, till late next year. Tron finally opened in the spring, like it was long overdue. The Roundup Rodeo Barbecue at Disney's Hollywood Studios finally opened this spring. And I think of those of us on here, the only one I know for sure who's eaten there is Greg. Chris, did you make it there as well?
No, not yet.
Greg, you want to talk about it for a moment or two?
No, I didn't eat there at the barbecue.
You didn't eat there. I thought you did. I thought you had a reservation and I didn't.
Oh no. No, you and I were going to meet. We were going to go to 50s Primetime, I think. But no, I haven't been there yet. I'd love to.
I've been in the barbecue space. I got a tour of it, but I didn't get even a sample of food, which was one of the more bizarre media events. Of course, it was about 9 in the morning, and I wasn't too sorry to not have barbecue at 9 in the morning. Yeah. Here, wait a minute. I got a couple of pieces of vid of it here. There we go. So, I mean, it's a neat looking space. It looks like the rest of Toy Story Land. The story is that it, comes from the same stuff that Andy built his other toys out of, his backyard toy set out of. Let's see what else we have. What else did we get? We got Moana, we got the Journey of Water, inspired by Moana. Disney's really gotten into these long names, right? And they have for a long, long time. I think the Journey of Water is beautiful. I sort of wish that it led to an e-ticket attraction, because to me it seems like a beautiful extended queue, like the extended queue over at Pandora for Flight of Passage. But short of that, it's a beautiful addition to the park. Looks really nice at night. Anyone else have a chance to walk through that? Any thoughts on that?
Yes, the one thought I had is it probably would have been a better fit in Animal Kingdom than at Epcot, but actually liked it better than I thought I did. It was me, Mike, and our teenage niece that went. We had a long day at the Magic Kingdom. We hopped over to Epcot. We did it, and we actually had a really good time. It was all the interactive stuff with the waves and raising your arms in the air. We actually had a really good time. I liked it a lot more than I expected to. Because honestly, the bar I had was not too high. We actually had a lot of fun. And like I said, at night, it was beautiful lit up. And you can see Spaceship Earth all lit up in the background. We actually enjoyed it more than we expected to.
I think the bar not being high added to that. Go ahead, Chris.
I'd agree. We were the same way. We're like, I'm not sure what this is going to be like. It's just going to be something that you walk through. But I thought that, it's just gorgeous. And the one thing I really loved about it was I saw so many people smiling. Everyone that was walking through that place, and I know it's Disney and people are smiling, but everyone just seemed to be really thoroughly enjoying that whole area, the entire time, from the littlest kids all the way on up. So I was excited by it. I do think it would be better than Animal Kingdom, but it does, like the shot you're showing right now. It's just beautiful to see Spaceship Earth all lit up behind it.
The odd thing is I see showing that last scene there was that it's an entirely outdoor attraction at a park that has a lot of entirely indoor attractions. So I guess that's probably why they went in that direction. But when it rains, oh my God! I mean, the Journey of Water is of course everywhere, and here in Florida, it rains 6 months of the year. And the attraction will close when there's lightning, as it did. I was there for a media preview during Destination D23. I think I'd already been there 2 or 3 times before that. That's how long its soft opening went. But the day I was there, they cleared us out of there before our scheduled time had even ended, because lightning in the area. And of course, when there's lightning in the area, all outdoor cast are rounded up and allowed to head somewhere safe.
It's so much better at night. At night too. It's more beautiful at night.
We can jump to this comes pretty much next in order with the long overdue completion of the redo of the center of the park. Let me get that here. on the screen.
Take those walls down already.
Well, what's interesting?
They're finally gone. Most of them.
Yeah, I mean, and what they've got is interesting, but it's what I have called a flex space, meaning that during the day, especially here at opening, other than the statue of Walt, which I haven't been able to be this close to because it's always busy over there, which is why I'm using Disney B-roll for this. The rest of this footage I shot on December 5th when it opened. And, you know, the space is really nice. It includes a lot of seating, a lot of shade, things that Epcot has long needed. But in this opening format, it's very, very plain, and people have criticized it for being plain. At night, it becomes sort of electric, with no pun intended, with all the lighting, and the lighting is beautiful and coordinates with the lighting on Spaceship Earth. I believe during daytime, when the festivals are on, this area is going to get the festival treatment. So there'll be flowers for Flower and Garden Festival. There'll be art type stuff for the Festival of the Arts. There's a lot of performance spaces available in it that performers will be able to use. It'll be an interesting space by day when it gets fully activated for the festivals. But when that's going to happen, I'm not sure. And the last time I talked to the people who run the festivals at Epcot, they were sort of cagey about what their plans for the future were. And of course, Communicore Hall and Communicore Plaza, which are part of this area, they were supposed to come online by the end of the year. Disney kept saying that the Epcot transformation would be complete by the end of 2023. And last I was there, 2 weeks ago now, that area isn't close to being ready. There's a whole lot more work left to be done on getting those spaces ready. And it didn't open on December 5th with the rest of the area. And that's where the new Mickey and Minnie meet and greet will be too. Right now, they meet over at, one has sound. They meet over at Imagination Pavilion in the hallway. This was actually taken at the DVC meeting because they also wore their the Disney 100 costumes for that. Let's see.
I mean, it's kind of a beautification. It's kind of a beautification project, right?
Yeah, I mean,
attraction project. You know?
It makes it. Disney said they put the park back in a park, and I think that's accurate. The area is very park-like, as opposed to theme park specific. It's got like I said, it's got some decorating to do because in its opening day form, it's very plain. It's clean. It's modern. It doesn't shout out Epcot, at least in the old classic sense, but I suppose to a new generation of kiddies, it may say that to them going forward. I'm not sure. Let's see if I can show the next video here. I'm trying to get it queued up. Let's see. Oh, there it is. There's the Hatbox Ghost, who finally appeared, like I said, on November 30th. Now, interestingly, because I didn't know when the car was going to shift, I got very mediocre video of it, and I hope to get better video one of these days. But I've only been
by the endless hall. And in Disneyland, is he not at the end of the attic?
Right. And there's a whole lot of online debate about that. A lot of people say it's out of story. I've heard it was put here for technical reasons. I don't know. Anybody have any thoughts on the story aspect?
I don't know. The story seems kind of sketchy to start with. I mean, I've never, I've heard all the different versions of it. I just enjoy all the movies at the hallway. There's an attic sequence at Disney World's Haunted Mansion, isn't there?
Yeah, the Disney World version is almost identical. There's some slight differences in the beginning, and after the beginning, they're pretty much identical.
I was so excited to see it for the first time, and I was hoping that I'd get a good glimpse at it, and my Doom buggy broke down directly in front of him for a minute.
Oh, cool.
So it's like, well, I got it. One, I thought maybe I'd do a second trip to catch him again, but one was enough. 1 full minute of that. And let me tell you, looking close, it's a really good effect. And I was really looking.
So let's see what else we have coming up at Disney World. Disney World's got a DVC tower that's been under construction since last year at the Polynesian that we don't know when it's coming online, although I assume sales for those units will start in 2024. That building's finally starting to get an outside covering, and we all hope it looks better than the artist's rendition, because the artist's rendition that they released a few years ago got a whole lot of noise on the internet, and I was not particularly fond of it myself.
Marriott on the Lake.
What's that?
It's a Marriott on the Lake.
Yeah, that's how I've had it described. It's not at all like Aulani. Aulani, of course, is much more Hawaiian in its theming, and of course, even the Polynesian in its old tiki fashion is more interesting than what they released. But we'll see. We'll see what happens as they finish the outside.
We stayed there in June, and my room was right there, actually, right on right looking. If I looked to my left, I saw the construction. And the one thing I kept saying, and Diane and I hadn't been back to the Polynesian since 2010. I think we stayed there, and so it's been a while since we've been back. I thought the Polynesian was mobbed, just in general, and I kept wondering, what is this DVC tower going to do to? Because I don't think they're building a pool complex with the new building, and so that means that everyone's going to be, flooding over to the rest of the Polynesian. I'm not going to say I didn't enjoy the Polynesian, because I did, but I did feel like it was a little bit too hectic. And I'm wondering if this massive tower is going to just add to that hecticness at the Poly. Because I felt in 2010 we loved it because we thought it was tranquil, and we did not feel tranquil this time.
And by way of comparison, I brought up my Aulani, one of my Aulani pictures, and I mean that's much more Hawaiian. That next door hotel is the Four Seasons, originally built by Marriott, and that's sort of the design of what's been proposed by DVC to take up for that new tower. Let's see if I got anything else on my list here. We got the Cake Shop at Boardwalk, which started under construction to replace the ESPN Club last year, and I was over at Boardwalk about 10 days ago, and that's got a long ways to go. I'm not sure when that'll be finished. Summer House on the Lake by Let Us Entertain You Restaurants of Chicago opened last week at Disney Springs on schedule, which I was very impressed by, because they'd been saying end of 2023 all year, and it didn't look like they were going to make it. Then they made it. And I got over there a day or two after it opened and really enjoyed myself. They're going to have a media event next month. We'll have more coverage when they do that. And then I suppose the last two things, one I skipped here when I was talking about World Celebration. It's the new fireworks, if I can scrub to that. Let's see. The new fireworks at Epcot, Luminous, the Symphony of Us, and somebody really enjoys that word "us" because it keeps showing up in all the names, it seems. They did it with Harmonious too, where they had those capitalized US. So if I put this on, it'll show up for just a second here. Which button does that? There we go. So, I mean, they're making really good use of these new movable fountains. The fountains on the left and right, there's 4 of them. They get towed out every day, so there's not that big ring in the middle of the lake all day like there was. Right. There's only fireworks effects, lighting effects, fountains, and music. There's no projection. There's no video. It's a very simple story. You're born, you make friends, you die. And it really is a little bit somber in that respect. And a lot of people have bashed it for that. It incorporates the lighting on Spaceship Earth at some points, as you can see here, because, of course, they put us in prime viewing for its media event debut. And I found it far more watchable than I found Harmonious, which I found not repeatable. I watched Harmonious once in an official spot. I caught it a few times here and there over the year and change it was there, and was never all that interested in it. It just never connected with me. Anyone else have any other thoughts?
We watched it. We were there for Thanksgiving, and I enjoyed it. You know, I was commenting in the comments over there. I was quoting the History of the World, one of the greatest movies of all time. And Dom DeLuise as Caesar says, nice, not thrilling, but nice. And I almost felt that way about it. You know, it's funny how people are so wanting Illuminations back. Like, that's just what I read online when I read about these new shows. It's like, it's not Illuminations. It's funny how such an old show, you know, it just has people's hearts still. I thought it was fun and I enjoyed it. I like it better than having those big giant things in the lagoon all day.
The funny thing about what you just said to me was the difference for me between Illuminations and each version of Illuminations that I saw, and I saw at least 3 versions of it before the one that lasted for 20 years. But each version of Illuminations totally captured me on first viewing. Whereas this show got me a little bit. I liked this show, and I walked away going, this is a lot better than Harmonious to me, and I can see this again and again, and I'll be okay with it. But it didn't grab me. Harmonious didn't grab me at all. I mean, when I was asked by one of the Disney PR people what I thought of Harmonious the night it debuted, I said to him, maybe I could like it on repeat viewing, maybe. That was as pleasant about it as I could be, because it just didn't grab me. And
what about Epcot Forever?
Epcot Forever was sort of in the middle. Epcot Forever tugged on some heartstrings for me. I went back to see Epcot Forever more than once. I didn't love it, but I accepted it as a temporary show. And the fact that
temporary forever.
Well, I was going to say the fact that it came back as a temporary show was kind of funny, right?
Yeah, that's true.
That we said goodbye to Epcot Forever. It's sort of like Adrienne complaining about Main Street Electrical Parade coming back over and over again. She called it the show that wouldn't die. I love the Main Street Electrical Parade. I wish it would come back to Florida. But Epcot Forever, I was happy it replaced Harmonious when Harmonious had to die so that they could put new equipment in for a new show. But Epcot Forever was just, it was okay filler. The park needs fireworks at night.
I just found that it's just a little underwhelming. It was nice hearing the old music, and just Chris, to your point about Illuminations, like at the Magic Kingdom, right? Happily Ever After came back because everybody wanted it.
Very true.
Much, so,
listen. Wishes was a big deal for me. My wife and I got remarried. In the garden there, and right before Wishes exploded in the sky. So it's always had a place in my heart. But I'm fine with Happily Ever After being his replacement. It's fantastic.
Well, I didn't get married to it, but my first viewing of Wishes captured me the same way you're describing. That was despite the fact I had seen the original Fantasy in the Sky. I'd seen a number of versions of Fantasy in the Sky and enjoyed seeing it every New Year's for the 15 or so New Year's Eves that I went and spent at Magic Kingdom. But when Happily Ever After debuted, I walked away from that and said, hey, that's a worthy replacement. I really enjoyed that. When Enchantment debuted, and I was there for the dedication of it on the night before the 50th anniversary started, I walked away from that and said, what was that? I did not enjoy it. I found it boring and actually never went back to see it again in the entire run it had. I never saw Enchantment from inside the park again. I saw it from the California Grill a couple of times on top of the Contemporary. I saw it from the ferry boat dock. I saw it from the Polynesian Beach, but I never saw it again from the or not the Polynesian Beach, the Grand Floridian Pier. But I never saw it again from the park. And frankly, part of it was the park was so crowded with people. Right. The park was so crowded with people on Main Street pushing as close towards that sweet spot where you could see the projections on both Main Street and the castle that the park became unpleasant on top of the show not capturing me. And, they kept trying to say that the show was tied to the park's 50th anniversary. And yet there was nothing about that show that said Disney Parks at all until they added that itty bitty little Walt clip. And of course, the Walt clip is a Walt clip in general, not tied to Walt Disney World because, of course, Walt was gone by the time the park opened in 71.
Right.
It could have been, the theme to Pirates and the Haunted Mansion theme and Epcot music and everything else. And that was kind of what I expected. So,
well, I haven't seen any of the new Epcot shows yet. But from what I've seen and heard online, it does not seem like any of them would get me going like Illuminations did. I think out of all you guys, Chris may be the only one who has seen me conduct Illuminations.
I was just thinking, I watched you conduct Illuminations. Yes, so that was a great moment.
On YouTube, it can be a scavenger hunt. There is a video taken during Mouse Fest one year of me conducting Illuminations. I'm not going to tell you who posted it, so that'll be part of the fun. But there is footage on YouTube of me conducting Illuminations. and I have not heard or seen anything that makes me think that any of the new shows at Epcot would have gotten me going the same way that Illuminations did. And like Alan, I've
musically
seen,
speaking, I think the new show misses that moment of Illuminations that gets real fast, right? It misses that high energy segment. Dun, 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 dun. There is nothing like that in the new show. The new show's got some fun moments, but nothing that reaches that sort of excitement level.
Yeah, but I mean, even going back to the original Illuminations 25 and Illuminations 25A, 25B, and then, the other variants, all of those, just captured the imagination and got you going, whether it was the version with the classical music or anything else, it drew you in. And these more recent shows, none of them really seem to have that power to draw you into the show. Now, I don't know if this latest show does it or not, but, it's not like any of the versions of Illuminations over the years. So I would be really thrilled if they brought back Reflections of Earth, or even if they went back to, 25, 25A, 25B. All of those versions of Illuminations were wonderful. They captured the imagination. We loved watching them. And the last time that we were there, from everything that I had heard about the new show, we had a limited number of nights in Florida, and we were not going to be able to see one nighttime show. And we said, you know what? This new show at Epcot, we really are not, we don't think it's going to be worth our time to go over there. Let's watch, Magic Kingdom instead.
Yeah, I would say so. I was there the night it closed. I was there the last night of Illuminations, and it was like a, I don't want to say it was like a funeral, because it wasn't like a funeral, but there was a sadness when that show ended. Everyone, people were just like hugging each other, and and it was like, wow, we just said goodbye to an old friend. It was interesting. So it really was. It was a sad but beautiful night that final Illuminations I saw.
And they did that on Rosh Hashanah, so I didn't make it.
Yeah, we couldn't travel down. We couldn't travel down for that, though we did go down to say goodbye to Illuminations earlier that year.
I went earlier that week.
We went every night of that trip to see Illuminations.
Well, and Illuminations was a show that I went back to the park for regularly. I mean, in my earliest trips, when I would come down after Illuminations Day, the version of Illuminations that lasted the 20 years, Reflections of Earth, I would try to make sure I ended every night at Epcot, unless I was sticking around for the fireworks at Magic Kingdom or doing extra magic hours somewhere. And the reality was, even the boats were such between Epcot and the studios, whatever it was called in those years, that you could catch a showing of Fantasmic, hop on the boats, and later I learned you could walk, and get to Epcot in time to see Illuminations. And I would certainly do that, because studios long had stopped doing its nighttime fireworks. Only intermittently over the years has it done nighttime fireworks, like when it did Star Wars fireworks and Frozen fireworks. But they're back in that mode where the only time they're doing fireworks is for their projection shows, where it's not fireworks predominant. And they did Jingle Bell, Jingle Bam only for Jollywood Nights, which I didn't get to experience because I was out of town when it happened, and I sent a friend who provided the content that we put up.
Both of my sons went to Jollywood, and they weren't impressed.
And between the friends who I rely on for opinions, the friends who didn't pay, who were comped, thought it was an enjoyable night. Although I think the media night, it rained, and so they missed out on a whole bunch. The people I know who've paid have varied depending on how busy it was the night they went. Some people found it more charming than others. uh, I had absolutely no interest in it. I mean, from the time they announced it, I wasn't included in the day they did the media, so I didn't even have an opportunity to ask any questions about it when they announced it. And all the descriptions of it was another Christmas party, and Christmas is not a holiday I celebrate. And so Christmas celebrations are everywhere at this time of year, and I engage in some of them, but I don't choose to engage in another one that costs another $200 on top of what I'm already paying for my DVC dues and my annual pass. And I mean, as I've said a bunch of times in the updates and on the show, I didn't even buy the top level annual pass because the top level annual pass was $400 more for 20 more days, 15 at this time of year and 5 around Thanksgiving. And yes, these are days at this time of year that I used to go, and I used to go around Thanksgiving, but those 20 days together were not worth $400 to me. Last year I bought a SeaWorld pass with less than that $400, and I got my $400 worth out of SeaWorld or whatever it was, because SeaWorld, in addition to unlimited admission, gave comps, and you could bring friends along, and they gave food discounts that were not any better than Disney's. In fact, I'd say their food discounts were worse because of some service charges that SeaWorld had. But the SeaWorld experience was adequate, not so exciting to me that I renewed. I didn't renew for this year. My goal this year is to go seek out other attractions here in Central Florida I haven't seen before. And if folks have suggestions on those, I'd be happy to hear those as well. Because there's a whole bunch of stuff here in Central Florida that I haven't gotten around to. One of the things I was going to do with my SeaWorld pass that I never got around to was go to Busch Gardens. I have not been to Busch Gardens Tampa since the mid-1980s, and my pass was good at Busch Gardens, and the timing never worked out. I didn't get over to Tampa in time to go see what's the latest and greatest of what in the un-PC days they used to call the Dark Continent.
Yes.
That was the name of the park back
I remember that.
I would have gone to see the Muppet thing at Jingle, whatever it was called.
And
just because they did a show with the Muppets made me thrilled that they actually did that. My sons thought it was cool. They thought that was one of the highlights of the night for them. They both went on opening night.
A lot of people have called that out as a highlight. I have a moment of it, I think, in the queue here, if I can find it. Let's see.
Anytime they bring back my Muppets, I'm pretty happy that when they do something with them.
Not that you're biased toward the Muppets or anything, Chris.
No, of course not.
With good reason.
Jollywood Nights. There they are. Look at them.
Well, and I thought they completely missed out on the opportunity of calling it Disney Holiday Studios. I mean, I've written that a bunch of times. I have mistyped that at this time of year more times than I can count. One of the highlights of this not only was the Muppets, but the live musicians, which is not something we get a lot of in a stage show in Florida. We get a few venues with live musicians here and there, like the stage at Canada and the stage at Morocco. And my friend Carol, who used to play at the UK Pavilion, is now retired. But the number of live musicians and shows, I can't remember the last one that used them since Tarzan Rocks, maybe. And that's been gone a long time.
That's a long time.
Yep. So yeah, it was this to many people was the highlight. And of course, what's interesting about Jollywood Nights, the Muppet characters were used at Magic Kingdom for the show Great Moments in History, but only the American parts. And so it was sort of a recycling of those characters. And then I start to show this video, which was the other highlight some people have called out to me. I'm getting Muppets on the screen, I see. The other highlight to some was the sing-along for the Nightmare Before Christmas that featured the giant Jack puppet, who served most of the year, most of the Halloween season in service over at Magic Kingdom as part of the fireworks for the Halloween party. Right. And he just played double duty. He got recycled, moved over here, and they spent some money on these sets, and they spent some money on live actors. But I wonder how much, because the live actors in this show weren't allowed to speak; they mimed. And I've listened to a discussion from the live entertainment directors where they talked about how they thought miming was a more effective way to communicate. And I don't know what it was like in person because, like I said, I wasn't there. I've seen video of it. But in a moment here, we'll see them running around on stage because they're sitting in those oversized chairs. And they, unlike their counterparts in the Frozen sing-along that usually takes place in this Hyperion Theater, They don't sing along, but the words do appear on the screen. There we go. So there's stuff that happens on screen, scenes from the film, and the lyrics appear at some point. I think I included a clip of the lyrics appearing. I kept all the music out of it, so we didn't take any copyright. There we go. There's some lyrics.
Well, miming is also cheaper because, that's a different price category for the actors.
Well, that's what I was figuring from TV, but I wasn't sure if it's true of Actors Equity here in Florida.
No, speaking
It
role
is part of
versus
Actors Equity
non-speaking
if you
role.
don't speak.
I'm sure, Todd, you can speak to this more, but speaking role versus non-speaking role is a big difference.
Absolutely. If you don't speak, then it's not, I don't think it goes under the equity contract.
So they could be the same as parade performers, for example.
Correct.
Yeah.
I finally saw that Frozen thing in the theater. I'd never gone in there before. We had some time on the Thanksgiving trip. We went in there. That was actually a really good time.
Did you see it during holiday season, or did you see it during an ordinary season?
I saw it at Thanksgiving, so it had a little holiday tag on the end there, and it was fun. It was a good time. That was definitely a good time. My boys were of the feeling that Frozen was oversold like crazy when they were. My boys were, I guess, I don't know, what is Frozen 10 years ago at this point. So they were like 11 or 10 or 11 when it came out. And they're like, I don't want to see any more Frozen. So we never went into that show. And that just sort of stuck. And then this time we're like, let's go in there. We've never been in there before. It's like,
well, and in 2014,
real estate that I've never been in. So
in 2014, they did the Frozen Summer of Fun for the first time, which is when that Frozen show debuted. And they from what I've heard, from what I've heard, they put that together in very short order because at that point in time, the Disney Synergy machine wasn't thinking we need to put something in the park. And of course, it's turned into this mammoth IP property that now is getting its own lands and lands overseas and got its own attraction here at Epcot. And let's do a roundup. It's over an hour that we've been on. I don't know if our Instagram feed is still working. It looks like it is, but I did get a warning when I started the show that the Instagram feed for some accounts would cut out after an hour. Let's start with Gregg Jacobs, where it's now, about 5 a.m.
So
any parting thoughts for the New Year's, Greg?
Oh, just really, really great to see everybody. We have family visiting this summer. Hope to hit Disneyland Paris again, and got a couple of trips to the East Coast planned. So hope to see some of you guys in person too next year.
Well, look forward to seeing you next time you're in town. Let's go to Chris Berry.
Hey, yeah. Listen, my son just got accepted as a part-time cast member. The college program is ending, so he's going to stay. They're transferring to UCF, and he's never coming back. And he's never coming back. That's it. Yeah, Alex got that job. That's it. So I'm going to be there probably a whole lot more visiting him, and I'm looking forward to it. I got an article that Mark has to edit tomorrow, so it'll be running on Friday, kind of a holiday wrap up. And thanks for everybody out there. It's so good to see you guys again. I miss doing this.
Todd King?
Just glad to be with you all again. And I'm not in the parks as much as you all, so I'm far, far away, galaxy far, far away.
Well,
but so
are you excited? Are you excited for the next iteration of Star Tours, which was one of the things I left off the list of what's coming in 2024? There'll be an Ahsoka version of the Star Tours attraction coming at some point.
All that stuff is great because it's great to see the new stuff in there. It's very exciting in Star Tours. Now I'm glad that they've maintained its modularity and keep adding things to that. And Star Tours, has been there for a long time, but I hope at some point we get something new in Galaxy's Edge. I mean, they put so much things into the Star Cruiser and then it nosedived, and I'd like to see something in Galaxy's Edge sometime in the future. I don't know what kind of plans they're having, but man, if they could do something more original trilogy, they might draw some old time fans like me a little bit more into it. But
I certainly felt that way as a 50-plus-year-old. That would have spoken to the kid in me far more than what's there now.
That's the most. That's what most people recognize Star Wars for. So it needs to have a presence in there somehow. But how they're going to do it, I don't know. But so for being at a distance, I look forward to the stuff that's coming to Disney Plus or possibly movies, but I think that they've really taken back, put Dave Filoni in charge of Lucasfilm stuff, and I think they're really kind of assessing what they want to go forward with. So I think it'll be. I'm trepidatious, but excited too. So we'll see what happens in the land of Star Wars.
Todd Pickering.
So great seeing all of you. This is a great little end of the year treat. I'm looking forward at the parks to. I do hope there's more in the Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. Not being the biggest Star Wars fan, but reading up on all of Todd's stuff, I think there should be more festivals and different things there. So I'm hoping that will happen. Looking forward to Tiana's adventure, and hopefully a show at the Hyperion this year, definitely.
And you got to try out the new Tiana themed restaurant at Disneyland, right?
Yeah, absolutely. They always open strong at the Disneyland. The key to reviewing them is to see what happens 6 months afterwards. But there was a lot of authentic food coming in from New Orleans. The beignets, the lemon beignets with the lemon glaze on them were absolutely wonderful. So it was nice having something different than the actual beignet cart out front. And it's just absolutely beautiful. They really did a stunning job with it. And the theming is on point with a Haunted Mansion queue next door. That part of the park is just going to be beautiful.
And if folks want to get their Todd Pickering fix, he's been generous enough to record a number of pieces for me for the Gary Myers Show Cocktail Hour Live. And he appears weekly because I keep recycling the same old clips, even when we don't do anything new.
We can never get enough Todd Pickering.
There's plenty, and Gary wants him back, so we got to get him back.
I'll be
I don't have it queued. I don't have it queued up. I do have old Todd Pickering clips queued up. Let's do this one.
Oh, that was
good.
Yeah,
you can still watch Walk of Fame Wednesdays on YouTube.
I'll give it a think.
There you go.
I've funked. Now I'll try.
Yeah. Hopefully I'll be down in Hollywood more next year.
Thanks, Todd.
Well, it's been really good seeing everybody. I don't really get a chance to see folks much anymore. Hopefully at some point we will get together in person. And hopefully I will get back down to Florida and see all the folks down there, MousePlanet and non-MousePlanet, that I miss because it's been so long. I see Shelley in the comments a lot. So yes, Shelley, you're on that list. And it's a very long list, but I think I miss the people, as much as I miss the parks. And, especially over this last year, which has been kind of difficult, it really would be nice to be able to get down there and get back together with people.
And I think when you talk about difficult, one of the things that was difficult for those of us at MousePlanet as well was the passing of MousePlanet contributor Jim Korkis, who I know you were very close to.
Yeah, that was just so sad. I was on the phone regularly with Jim and with his brother while he was going through his battle. And, there were a couple times that we thought that he was actually going to make it. And it was really a blow to lose Jim because he was just such a giving person, always wanting to share his knowledge. He could definitely be a bit, let's say, cantankerous when it came to people modifying his stories in the process of editing, that made it seem like he was saying something that he didn't want to say. I ran into that a couple of times with him, but we kind of got that straightened out. But Jim, was just an amazing fount of knowledge, and he was just everywhere, and he wrote for so many different sites with so much information and so much left. I know that there were 2 books that he left unfinished. His brother Mike is working with one of Jim's collaborators to make sure that those books do get finished and get published. I don't have information on that yet. I know that we had said that there was going to be a memorial service for Jim. The last time I spoke to his brother, Mike, Mike said that the family was still dealing with things and they could not deal with putting together a memorial service. And I was talking about potentially having, some of his friends put together a memorial service. And then right after that, we had a number of serious health issues for family and friends. And so, I kind of dropped that, but, hopefully we will circle back and have some kind of memorial service for Jim at some point in the future. I just can't say when that is because there's just too much time being taken up with other stuff at the moment. Now you're on mute.
Yeah.
That I was going to say I was covered in that other view anyway, so I was mute and blind or something. At any rate, thanks everyone for joining. It's been an interesting experiment because I've got Instagram going on a screen over here. I keep seeing people join. I see a count here that's not been all that high all night, but I know people are coming and going all night. It's been great to be back with you guys because individually, for those of you who don't know, we almost all chat. I chat with Gregg Jacobs, probably the most out of this gang, and Todd Pickering I used to chat with the most. So he moved up to San Francisco and took up some weirder hours. But other than that, I've talked to everybody here from time to time, even Mark, an occasional ping. And it's great. It's great to see you all. It's great to have seen Adrienne. I was happy she was able to join us at all. And until the next time we can find an excuse to go live, Happy New Year, everyone. And sign off with a sign off, and I'll then hit the various buttons that shut down the stream. But thanks, everyone. Take care. And you guys can stick around for a few moments afterwards. Take care. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Hello, everyone.
2024.
Thanks.